Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fantasy Sports Review. I'm Phil Hargis. It's good to see you guys again. The Super Bowl is come and gone. We have a new Super Bowl champion, the New York Giants. Well, they're not new, but they've won it before, but they beat the New England Patriots in an exciting football game. So now football season, we're going to put a close to that. We are actually going to do some pretty cool fantasy football shows here coming up. We're going to do in a couple weeks, maybe a month or so, we're going to do another fantasy football draft, like how we would draft today based on what we know as the season ended. And we also have a fantasy football award show coming forward. We're going to present awards to the best fantasy performers in various categories. So that's very exciting. We're looking forward to that. It'll be something a little bit new and something a little bit different, and it should be a lot of fun to keep your fantasy football whistles wet. So anyway, now that football season's over, we usually migrate immediately into college basketball. But we have something very exciting for you guys this week. As you know, me, Doug, and last year Justin Dew, we're really getting into horse racing, and we've had a lot of fun covering the Kentucky Derby for you for all these years. And this weekend happens to be the opening of the Kentucky Derby Futures Pool #1. So we're going to talk about the Kentucky Derby tonight. It's really exciting now that we're into February here. We're going to get into horse racing. So before we start getting into college basketball and March Madness, let's go and get into some horse racing coverage here. We do have a special studio guest back with us for the first time since last summer. We have Justin Dew. Justin, great job with the Triple Crown last year, and it's great to have you back in the studio.
It's great to be here, and I'm excited about the fantasy football draft you guys do after the season. I think I could be very successful at that if I knew what the stats were going into the draft. So maybe I could come back for that and draft a successful fantasy football team.
Okay, and you were telling me that you have had your problems with the fantasy football stuff, so maybe that would be the way for you to be very successful with next year's team.
I think you're onto something.
Okay, and we do have another guy waiting for us live via Skype. His name is Doug Cook. He's no stranger to fantasy football or to horse racing. So Doug Cook from his destination to be determined. Doug via Skype. Great to have you on the show again, and how you doing, man?
Good morning, guys. Good to see you again. I can't wait to start talking some horses. So let's get right on it.
Good morning. You must be like in Australia or something, I guess, where you're
Hong Kong
in the morning, covering the maybe Japan, covering some of those Asian races over there, maybe even in Dubai.
It's my penthouse suite in Shanghai, if you must know.
Okay, well, thanks for the update on that, man. That is good to know, Doug. Believe it or not, it's horse racing season, man. Football season's over. Now it's the Road to the Roses. The Kentucky Derby's going on, man. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, obviously, it's very exciting. The actual Road to the Roses contest, I'm sure we'll have a show about that coming up in a couple weeks, because that actually starts at the end of the month. And we'll have some good, updated picks for you. But this is a good place to start the information that we're going to give people today about the current field for Pool 1.
Okay, so Pool 1, Justin, you're the expert here that we brought in here to sit alongside of me. Tell the fans out there, how does Kentucky Derby Pool 1, what that means, and exactly how it works?
Well, what you're betting on now is the Kentucky Derby, and there are 23 horses listed here. You can bet on them right now to win the Kentucky Derby, which is about 3 months away. Whatever the odds are on these horses, when this pool closes on Sunday evening, those are the odds that you get on that horse to win the Derby. If the horse gets hurt next week, you lose your money. If the horse makes it to the starting gate in the Derby, you will very likely see lower odds on Derby Day on probably just about all of these horses. So you can find some value here in this future wager. We're familiar with future wagering. Las Vegas offers it. In fact, you can bet today on who will win next year's Super Bowl. They do it for horse racing too. And this is sort of a mix of pari-mutuel wagering and future wagering. It is a pari-mutuel bet, so the odds fluctuate until the pool closes. And you have to really kind of look around and demand value in these bets.
And it's very important what he just said is if you place a bet on the horse, when you place a bet, if the horse is 20 to 1, and you place that bet on Friday, the chances are by Sunday, very good, that the odds will change from 20 to 1 down to 10 to 1, or they may shoot up to 50 to 1 or something like that. You see a lot of dynamics in these odds as the weekend goes on, and that's especially as they run horse races this weekend. The Hutchinson Stakes is one of the big races going on this week down in Florida. It's a smaller race, so it may not affect things too bad unless the prohibitive favorite ends up losing that race. But we have a lot of horses to cover here. We don't have a lot of time. We have 23 minutes to cover 23 horses. I think we don't waste any more time. That's how the Derby pool works. Unless, Doug, you have anything substantial to add to that, let's just get to these horses, man. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, we're going to take you through the 23 horses, as Justin said, and we're going to take you guys through these horses one by one, as many as we can cover in 23 minutes, alphabetically. And if we start running low on time, we'll get to the horses that are the lower odds, the favorites. We're going to try to cover them all from A to Z, going into Pool 1 this weekend. Starting off, just happens to coincidentally be one of the favorites. At the top of the list is Algorithms. This is a horse bred by Bernardini and trained by Todd Pletcher that is 3-0 with a couple of fairly convincing wins by 5 lengths or more, ridden by Javier Castellano. Pretty solid horse here to start off the wagering here, guys. Justin, pretty impressive, huh?
Yeah, he ran a great race in Holy Bull on a sloppy track. He still hasn't gone 2 turns. I do expect he will be the favorite among the horses. Now, there is the 24th betting interest, which is all of the 3-year-olds not included here. That will be the actual favorite betting interest. But in terms of individual horses, I think Algorithms will be the most heavily bet. I expect him to be in around the 8-1 range. I don't think that's a smart bet, quite frankly. We're going to see 20 horses actually in the Kentucky Derby this year, like we do most years. And I think, if Algorithms makes it to the Derby and continues to improve, I mean, realistically, he's probably going to be somewhere in the 4 to 5-1 range, unless he's just a freak and starts blowing everybody away left and right in his remaining races before the Derby. So my sense is just watch him. Don't bet him here. If you really like him, wait till the Kentucky Derby. Make sure he makes a starting gate, because if he gets hurt in a week, you lose your money.
I mean, worst case scenario in Kentucky Derby, like you said, you'll get 5-1. Doug, this is a horse that is rapidly improving and doing well.
Yeah, he's certainly taken a step forward each time, and I'm going to refer to my grid here so that everybody. My grid actually shows the win odds from the last week of, I think the last week of January, and just to compare with the Pool 1 odds, which were 8-1. Algorithms is your favorite outside of the field bet, which includes a bunch of horses that are grouped together. We'll get to that later. But Algorithm romped over Hansen, which, that's a quality win, because Hansen would have been, probably the favorite in this pool, the morning line favorite.
Dominant favorite.
Yeah, if he hadn't been beat by Algorithm. And what I have to.
And beaten quite handily by Algorithms, too.
Yeah, he did. And you have to wonder whether he just thrived in the
In the
muddy track at Gulfstream, or and Hansen didn't like it, or I think Hansen goes back to a dry track. He's probably going to like it. So, that's my feeling on the situation. I think they'll probably go head to head, again this year.
Yeah,
He's a nice horse as well. He's been solid this year, and he's also improving.
Yeah, Doug, we didn't hear what you said in here. We had a slight blip on your Skype connection there. I mean, just to finish things up here, Algorithms has not raced over the Churchill Downs surface. That's always a concern for wagerers. Let's move on to Alpha. Alpha is morning line 21 in this pool. Again, another Bernardini horse. This one comes over from the Godolphin Racing Stable. Is this the year, you guys, that Godolphin gets it done with Kieran McLaughlin?
I mean, it certainly could be. I'm always skeptical of horses that spend their winters at Aqueduct on the inner track. I mean, traditionally over the years, we haven't seen a lot of horses come from that winter track and run real well in the Triple Crown. I suppose Alpha has every right to kind of buck that trend. He's expected to be about 20-1. I think he's got potential. Let's wait and see what he does against some better competition. His one bad race did come at Churchill Downs in the Breeders' Cup. If we were going to see 40-1 on him in this pool, I'd be inclined to maybe take a flyer on him. I don't think we're going to see 40-1 on Alpha. I think he'll probably be in the 20-1 range.
And I think it's a mistake, Doug, to look at him finishing 11th place in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. I mean, there's a lot of quality competition in that race.
Yeah, and he obviously had a bad race that particular time, but he looks solid this year, and I think, and I'll echo what Justin. I do have my doubts about him appearing only at Aqueduct so far, but he'll have to face some competition soon enough.
All right, you guys. Battle Harden is a horse that I'm kind of excited about. It's one of my longer shot plays. This is a 31 horse. It's a Giants Causeway horse, and this is a horse that is getting better with every race.
Yeah, I still think he's a cut below. I suppose you could get some good odds on him this weekend, and if that happens, he might be worth a play. But at this point, I think through the first 4 races of his career, 3 of which have been around 2 turns, he just hasn't shown that brilliance that I'd want to see. But he has the right to improve, and you might get good odds on him.
And hasn't exactly been a dominant horse at Churchill Downs, 2-0-1. 1 second place finish there, and that was in a maiden race a while back. Doug, I mean, is this horse showing the brilliance that you're looking for in a Derby horse?
No, it really hasn't. I think what you're looking at there is, like Justin said, a cut below that. Now there is a Giants Causeway horse in the race that I am in favor of, that I keep getting excited about, and that's Creative Cause, who is moving up with this past several races, and he did he did lose in the BC Juvenile, but that was tough competition, and he only lost by a length, and he's going to be debuting this year pretty soon, and that's a horse that could move forward again.
And he was right there, I mean, in the entire race in that Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Again, this is a horse that hasn't raced since November. Is that a concern for you, Justin?
No, not really. And he's going to make his debut later this month in the 7-furlong San Vicente Stakes. Again, he's done nothing wrong throughout his career. It'd be very interesting to see how he starts his 3-year-old season in the San Vicente. I'm not sure he'll be really primed to win that race, but it might set him up for a solid spring. Again, I think this horse will get some play. If he was 25-1 or higher, I'd be inclined to take a look at him. But again, as I've said, you really need to demand value here, and I'm not a big believer in betting heavily on horses that are low price odds, because you are going to see decent prices on many horses in the Kentucky Derby. The Derby's tough to predict in terms of what kind of odds we're going to see. Even the day before the race, you never know what bettors are going to end up landing on. So Creative Cause, if he's 25-1 or higher, I'd take a look. If not, I'd probably just wait and see how he progresses.
Okay, well, we have an interesting one coming up here next, Discreet Dancer. This is a horse that is undefeated. His won by almost 10 lengths and lastly by 5, but in a couple of lower class races here, made an optional claimer. This horse is out of Florida. It's another Pletcher horse, and it's a Discreet Cat. I mean, 15-1 morning line. Is this going to be one you're going to be looking at here, Doug?
I'm not going to look at him too seriously right now in this pool. That's not quite enough value for me. But you mentioned some good things, Todd Pletcher, and I think the fact that he's untested in stakes company is what would hold me back. But he certainly hasn't done anything wrong yet.
Do you see anything here to like at all? It's a
Yeah.
forestry.
He's obviously very talented. Pletcher's loaded this year, no question.
He always is.
I think that career debut for him at 5.5 furlongs, that might have been a track record. I'm not entirely sure, but he's run 2 very fast races. He's got a lot of talent. My gut tells me he's more of a sprinter, miler type, but he has every right to stretch out and do it effectively. In his next start, we'll kind of see what he does. 15-1, I think, is probably about what we're going to see. And this is another one. If he crept up to 25-1, which he won't, I might consider a play, but anything lower than that, I would not.
Okay, let's move on to Dullahan here. This is a 21 morning line horse. And Dale Romans, you remember Dale Romans from last year? He was the trainer of Shackelford, thank you. And that was your Preakness winner. And now we have a horse that is kind of gone up and down. I mean, he had a 6 lengths back, fourth place finish at the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. I mean, he's raced in some top graded races for a 3-year-old here on different types of surfaces. He's hasn't really fared horribly well on Churchill Downs surface here, but maybe better on some of these Keeneland surfaces and everything here. What do you think about Dullahan?
I think you're right. I think he might be a turf horse. I suppose, again, he has every right to progress. We'll see what he does in his 3-year-old debut, which is coming. It appears in the Palm Beach Stakes in March at Gulfstream Park. So, we'll have to see what he does. He's got a right to improve. He's listed at 20-1 here in the morning line. I don't think he's going to be 20-1. 50-1 or higher, I might take a look at him, but he's not one that's on the top of my list right now.
Yeah, and Doug, let's just go and take a quick time out to talk about how these odds fluctuate. And the Derby pools that I'm familiar with, I mean, you have your morning line odds, and I think a lot of them tend to stretch out. I mean, if they're morning line 20-1, I think the chances are very good, like Justin was saying. You might see them at 25, 30, or 50-1 or more with a lot of these, because people will really load up on that field bet.
You also might see them at even lower, at 10-1. I mean, people do load up on the field bet. They've got it projected for 9-5. That's probably about what the field bet is going to be. So, it could be anywhere in the area. It is tough to project what these odds are going to end up being. I think only one of these horses is racing this weekend, so I don't think you're going to see the racing impact the odds. But you really never know what the public's going to say. I don't think we'll see 20-1. I think he'll be higher than 20-1 Dullahan.
All right, let's go and move on to the next horse. Is El Padrino here. This is a decent horse here. He's got a win in his last race with just an astonishing speed figure here. This again, Pletcher, pulpit, well-bred horse. Pretty solid here. I mean, this horse looks like he's bred for a classic distance.
And that's what I have. I have solid, and he may offer some value. 20-1 morning line, 25-1 or 30-1. I might take a look at him. His effort at Gulfstream, that was his 3-year-old debut, around 2 turns. It was a very impressive effort. It was on a wet track, so a good sealed track. So it's hard to say if that influenced his performance. His other race over a sloppy track was also a 12-length win at Belmont. So I think he's got the right to continue to improve. He seems to be in the good hands. He's one that I'm interested in if the odds creep up there, but I would suspect his odds actually end up being lower than 20-1.
And again, the one sort of failure on his resume there was in a sort of a graded stakes race there in the Remsen.
And he ran well. He finished third, beaten less than a length, so he's certainly got the right to be a factor on the Derby Trail.
Okay. Doug, have you been able to manage to connect back with us here, or are you gone for now?
No, I'm connected.
Okay, and you're a huge fan of Empire Maker here, dude. So now we've gotten to Empire Way here.
Let me retrace make a comment on the last two horses. First of all, Dolahan, he's actually a Grade 1 winner in that Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland, so he can't be dismissed that easily. I think he just needs a pace to run at, and he may actually take to the dirt surface if he gets that pace. Now, El Padrino, if you look at his speed figures, if you believe in speed figures at all, there's suddenly a huge jump up in his race this year, his 3-year-old debut at Gulfstream Park. And that may be accurate or not. I found that the variant is difficult to believe because my figures and everyone else's speed figures show an unreasonably high performance figure for that race. So I'd just like to take that into account. It might have been an excellent race. It might have been awesome, but I find it a little bit difficult to believe that. And moving on to Empire Way, Phil, like you said, I am an Empire Maker fan, and he did move forward his first time on dirt, so I'm excited about those possibilities.
Well, let's also point out real quickly, I want to point this out, like El Padrino was raced against a pretty darn good horse here in Take Charge Lady here, and that could explain his performance in that race being, pretty good. Do you want to move on to the Empire Way here, Justin?
Yeah, Empire Way is probably the horse I'm most excited about. The 50-1 morning line odds look way too good to be true. I don't think we're going to see anywhere near that. This is a full brother to Royal Delta, last year's champion 3-year-old filly. I really liked his debut in the Lewis back on the 4th of February. He ran second. It was his first start on the dirt. I think he's got every right to improve and continue to get better as we get closer to the Kentucky Derby. If he's 50-1 on Sunday, I'm going to bet heavily on him. I don't think he's going to be 50-1, but I'm excited about watching this horse progress, and he's the one I'm looking at most closely.
Empire Maker, Doug. That's an impressive horse when he ran, and he's impressive. He's been an impressive sire too.
Yeah, it's been his competitive sire index is still one. If it's not still the best, it's one of the best.
And a horse is continuing to improve too.
And the next horse that we need to talk about is Ever So Lucky, and he's actually going to be running in the Hutchinson this weekend, cutting back to sprint again, which would probably help him out. He seemed to have lost his run out again on his Kentucky Dot Club, stretching out.
Yeah, he's been run first and second in his two races. He had a second where he was pretty close to Jim Olish, who we'll get here to shortly. About a length and a half back on that one over the Churchill Downs surface there. Ever So Lucky, he looks like Indian Charlie, so maybe not bred for the distance.
Yeah, I don't like him.
And let's just take a moment of silence for Indian Charlie. Rest his soul. Died just recently for 16 years old.
Tragic.
It's one of the first horses I remember watching when I started getting into horse racing was Indian Charlie. I mean, I think I remember betting on him in the Derby that year, but just couldn't quite get the distance.
Yeah, two in that race as well, Phil. Ever So Lucky is going against a horse making his second time start called Thunder Moccasin and Hutchinson. And Thunder Moccasin may actually be the favorite because had a very impressive debut.
Okay, Fed Biz, Justin, we were just talking about this one before the show. This is a Baffert horse, the first Baffert entry that we've talked about so far into the Kentucky Derby Trail. Morning line 21, Fed Biz, out of Giants Causeway, and it looks like a pretty decent horse here.
Yeah, he ran today at Santa Anita and won. I don't know where we'll see him next. I'm sure it'll be in a stakes race. And he's one to watch. If he creeps up to 30-1, which he won't, I'd be inclined to take a look at him. But I think because of the win this weekend, we're going to see lower than 20-1. And throw in Baffert, every reason to think this horse is probably going to be in that 15-1 range.
And Baffert has contenders every year, Doug. So this horse looks like a pretty solid contender.
Yeah, it could be. Definitely needs to move up again after his last race. And Gemologist has done nothing wrong either.
Let's get on to it.
Three wins in a row by Tisnow. Todd Pletcher, again, looks like room for improvement. I like it.
2-0 over the Churchill Downs surface, man. There's not much to not like here, is there?
No, except I don't think there'd be much value, and this bet is all about value. It's all about trying to find that horse who's going to be, 40 to 51 this weekend, and maybe be, 5 or 10 to 1 in the Kentucky Derby, And I just don't think we're going to see that with the Gemologist because of the Churchill wins, because it's Todd Pletcher, owned by Windstar Farm. Going to remind a lot of folks of Super Saver, I think.
Yes.
So there's almost no chance I'll play this horse this weekend.
If you get 21, would you take him?
No, I would not.
No, not at 20 to 1.
No.
Okay, moving on to another favorite here. Now we're getting into some favorites here, guys. Hanson, this is a horse that did win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile in a close match there. Has won 1-1-1 until he lost to Algorithms just recently here at Gulfstream Park. Is 1-0 at Churchill Downs, 12 to 1 morning line here. Early speed horse. Any chance of the Derby?
I'm not going to say that a horse has no chance in the Derby, but I did not like. I played Hanson in the Breeders' Cup. I had him. I won. I bet heavily against him in the Holy Bull. I picked the wrong horse. There is absolutely no chance I would play this horse in this future wager at all. If he makes it to the Derby, which I guess he has every right to, he's got the earnings. We all know that. There's no way I will use this horse. I would bet right now heavily he does not finish in the top 10 of the Kentucky Derby.
Doug, are you willing to take that bet?
No, I wouldn't bet this horse at all. But I think he will make the Derby, and he'll probably win some preps. His front running style is somewhat of a concern for me.
Okay, let's move on to. I'll have another in sort of the spirit of drinking that we've had recently. Doug O'Neill, trained horse out of Flower Alley, won as a substantial long shot last time out.
Yeah, he did, and he ran very well. He's got, I think, a very bright future. He's only going to race once more before the Kentucky Derby. That's in the Santa Anita Derby. Expected 20 to 1 odds here. I'm very interested in him. If he gets up to the 25 to 30 to 1 range, I consider playing him. I don't think that he will, but he is a legit horse with, I think, a big chance to do some big things this spring.
All right, Doug, let's move on to Junebug Red. This is a Corinthian horse. Corinthian's a little bit of a wild child here. Has a couple back-to-back wins here. Is he getting hot at the right time?
Well, I don't think, he did win the Smarty Jones, and I don't think that he has the greatest of chances at this point, but I'll have another, definitely could move forward again, by Flower Alley. That's a strong debut, and you could have got him at 150 to 1 in Vegas if you had got him before the Beverly Lewis win. But Junebug, I'm not really sold on yet.
You don't want to dismiss those horses out of Oakland. Every year it seems someone sneaks up. If he crept up to 75 to 1, I think he'd be very interesting. I think he will be one of the longer priced horses this weekend, and if he, like I said, gets up there, I'd consider using him, but I'm not all that impressed with him so far.
Okay, now you're probably not going to get a good deal on Liaison. This is a horse that's done a lot of wins. I think the jockey fell off this horse in his last race.
Yeah, he had some interference there in the stretch.
And here you have Indian Charlie and Bob Baffert again.
Yeah, again, and some folks want to give this horse another chance because the jockey fell off. He was backing up. He wasn't going to win. It was not the kind of 3-year-old debut you want to see. When you combine that with what I think will be relatively low odds, 20 to 1 or so, I will not be using Liaison.
All right, Doug, moving on to Longview Drive here. We have another pulpit horse, morning line 50 to 1. And I was doing some pretty good winning there and then started stepping up to some graded, including the Delta Downs jackpot 3 to 1, finished third there. And then came back with a pretty impressive speed figure there in the Sham for a third place finish, but not really that far back.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that variant for the Sham either, but he did certainly move forward this year, and he could, he could be on track again, as well as Liaison. Just one race where he dumped the rider, he could come back, but he might be better suited for artificial turf.
Yeah, I think he'll be right there with the Junebug Red, one of the longer prices, and let's wait and see what he does. His next start.
All right, now let's get to a long shot here that I think Doug is interested in. Midnight Transfer. This is a hard spun horse. Hard spun is a horse that Doug and I both liked at the Derby there a few years ago. Doug, tell us what you think about this horse here with coming off a couple back-to-back wins here with his maiden and then the San Pedro.
This horse is really interesting to me, as was Hard Spun, going into the Derby a few years ago. He hasn't done anything wrong this year, or in his last few. He hasn't raced it this year, but in his past few starts. The concern, of course, is that he's kind of a speedy horse, but he's got a good trainer, and a lot of these speedy type horses, have like a freaky breakout race in their first time over a mile, and I think that could happen with this. I would have loved to have got 225 to 1 on him, in Vegas. But even if I got one or something, I'd take that chance.
Okay, you guys, we have about 2 minutes left here. Midnight Transfer, do you see anything there that you're going to be interested in there, Justin?
The price might be very enticing. He's up in the 60 to 70 to 1 range.
Okay, guys, 2-minute warning. We hear Mr. Bowling here, Doug. I know this is a horse that you've been on here with a couple wins. Robbie Alvarado aboard in the last win in the Lecomte. And it's the Larry Jones horse who, speaking of hard spun, trained hard spun. You're interested in Mr. Bowling, aren't you?
I'm not too terribly interested in Mr. Bowling, but I think that Out of Bounds made an impressive 3-year-old debut in the Sham, and I think that's a horse that could, he kind of came out of nowhere this year and could keep improving.
All right, what do you think, Justin? Mr. Bowling or Out of Bounds? Who you like better?
Well, Out of Bounds. I'm not sure how tough that field was in the Sham, but he has the right to improve, and let's see what he does in his next start. And then I'll kind of, since I know we're running out of time, Rousing Sermon, horse number 20 on our list here, another Hollendorfer horse. I don't think he made a very impressive debut either, and if he was up to 75 to 1, I might consider him.
Sabercat 3 wins in a row.
Yeah, I think he's interesting. He needs to improve. 30 to 1 on the morning line. I bet you we see higher than 30 to 1. He comes from Asmussen, so he'll probably get some play there. But he's one to watch, and I'm going to wait and see what he does in his debut as a 3-year-old. But at 50 to 1, I might play him.
Okay, you guys, real quickly, we have a minute left on the show. We can't leave the show without talking about Union Rags. This is a great horse, 3 great wins to start his career, then came in second in that close race with Hanson in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Is he a Derby winner or not?
You want Union Rags or Take Charge Indy? Which one?
We do need to talk. Well, let's skip to Union Rags.
Okay. I think he is very solid. He probably should have won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and probably should be undefeated. He's going to be in the area of 10 to 12 to 1, maybe even lower. I don't think that's value. 20 to 1, I think, would be some enticing value. So if we saw 20 to 1, maybe. Anything less, no.
All right, Doug, we're going to put you on the spot right here. We're not going to let you talk about Union Rags. Who is your top pick this weekend and your top value pick for this weekend?
Well, I think, like I said, Midnight Transfer, obviously, I think represents the best value. I think that 50 to 1 might go up. It might balloon. So that's my long shot special. Like I said, I don't necessarily trust the variant for Take Charge Indy, and Union Rags should move forward in its debut.
All right, here are your top 2 choices for wins and for value.
I think Empire Way is the one I'm going to be watching most closely. I think if Empire Way creeps up there into that 40 to 50 to 1 range, I'm going to give it a look.
Okay, I'm loving Tisnow and Gemologist. I do like Hanson, but my long shot play is going to be Battle Hardened. And that is great, guys. Kentucky Derby pool is underway. I hope you guys enjoyed. Doug, thanks for joining us. Justin, great to have you back on the show. We'll do it again soon.
Thank you.
And we'll see all you guys next time on Fantasy Sports Review. Goodbye, everybody.